Hey, welcome back. Today I have a great real estate agent in the house. I'll put her name up there, Miss Bobbi Brennan with Pursuit Real Estate. Doing a little market update. What's going on with Bobbi here in the kickoff of 2024? Bobbi, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tracy. Happy to be here again.
I want to share some new news for you. It's been a few months, but for those followers, as we posted some on your pages and so forth, your move over to Pursuit Real Estate.
Yes, I moved over to Pursuit Real Estate with Jeff Reber, working with Jeff as my broker, and Matty Miller. He's in charge of our rental properties that we manage. So it's been an adjustment because I've had a lot to learn under them both. Jeff brings to the table things that I had not learned before, a lot more technology that I had not learned to finesse yet, that I'm learning under both of them.
And sometimes agents need to do that, just like people changing jobs. I mean, you may change brokerages because you there's a new value add, in this case, to technology and new ideas, a new way to attack your business.
Right. So I worked for a company before that, had a great relationship with Hovergirl Properties, and I learned a lot from them too. But as you know, in this business, most agents don't stay longer than 2 years, and I was with Hovergirls for 13 years, but saw an opportunity with Jeff to kind of move in a different direction, and sometimes at a certain point you need to do that to grow your own business.
Right, grow yourself.
Right.
And grow your business. You had a little bit of a success story. What we're seeing a lot of is some buyers that are taking a little bit more time than they were just 2 years ago to find a home, but you were able to successfully match a home. It worked out for them, and you got them in that new home.
I did. So I had these clients. We worked with customers. I worked with them for over a year, and struggled because we were in a market where we were competing against several other people, and we would put offers in, and we would get beaten out, of course, by a lot of large investors that were beating us out. And so then they kind of put the brakes on and decided, all right, these rates have gone up so high, I'm not going to look anymore. But then, I stayed persistent, kept sending them listings, and we found the perfect house for them. We were able to negotiate closing costs and a few other things, and their rate wasn't that bad. So,
are you finding in general that in negotiating with some of the buyers, because the builders are putting a lot of incentives, buy down the rate. I mean, they're putting a lot in there, that educating some of the sellers up front when you're doing a listing that, hey, you should make it buy, because you're going to compete with the builders, and then like in this case, helping the buyers get their closing cost or buy down the interest rate or both. How important is that right now?
Well, and that's actually what happened with this buyer. Is I told them, in the past, one, they're paying way over what they should have paid for a house. But in this market, you're not. You're getting fair market value. Now, prices have increased on homes, but you're at market value. So now the money that they would have put down, let's say, would have spent for closing costs, we can negotiate that now with the seller, where before there was no way you were going to get a seller to pay your closing costs. But you can also buy down your rate. You can do the same thing the builders are doing.
And the value is there. Have you had any problems with appraisals? Because obviously sometimes you might bump up the price a little bit to get the cost cut back or buy down the interest rate because the buyer and seller are negotiating in there. Are we having any problem with appraisals because the agents are being fairly accurate on the value?
I was going to say, I have not had a single problem with appraisals lately. It's been, and I think it's because everybody is pricing their homes at a fair market value.
Yep.
With a little bit of wiggle room. So no, we haven't had any problems.
I wrote down my notes. I can't even read my notes. Sorry.
I could say something.
I'm gonna
typical male.
Yes, I write like a doctor, though I'm not that intelligent. We're going to jump subjects here. You mentioned a little bit because obviously you deal a lot with VA buyers. You're a wife of a retired naval aviator.
Correct.
And so you have always have had since your entire career. Your career started working with other wives and spouses of our active duty. So you are up on what's going on with them. Recently, you said the BAH, their housing allowance, basically is they're cutting that a little bit. What's going on there?
For me, I have a special place in my heart for our enlisted military service members. My father was enlisted first and went on to become an officer, which is why I grew up in Orange Park. My dad was at NAS Jacks in a P3 squadron for years. And, I had a little brother that was in the military. So I know how hard these men and women work. And they actually, in my opinion, they don't get paid what they deserve to be paid for the amount of hours they put in. So one of the benefits of being in the military is getting your housing allowance. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think Jacksonville has ever been where they should be for housing. And we had started to creep up a little bit last year, which was a good thing, but then this year we're starting to creep down again. And I really encourage our service members, their spouses, their family, start speaking out. Reach out to your congressman and mm-hmm. say, hey, represent us. Increase our housing allowance so we can afford to live here, because we know buying a house is very different. The pricing is very different than it was 5 years ago. I think I've read many articles where nationally we were way below what everybody else was in our pricing of homes. So we started catching up, but the military hasn't caught up. And we need to increase our housing allowance for these men and women.
How does, the way you described it there, and maybe you can clarify for me. So it started to creep up, but then it started to creep down. Don't they, how is that actually, what dictates what the BAH should be at any given time? Is this something that's actually new legislation that's go out, or is there some sort of
they meet,
cost of living calculation
right.
that they're doing, and maybe they changed the calculation so it drove it down a little bit?
They meet. They meet annually, and they meet with realtors. And I don't know which realtors they're meeting with, but in the administration, some of our representatives, and it's just. I think sometimes they look at the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. Years past, they did gauge it on rent, but our rent has jumped significantly.
Yeah.
And so let's say your typical young enlisted family, they would have rented a house for anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500. You cannot find a house really for $1,200 to $1,500.
You might get a one-bedroom apartment.
Right. Mm-hmm. So now that same exact house, and I can tell you because I still manage rentals, I can tell you that I've got homes that were at that price point. They're now at $2,000. And it's not something I can do and bring that price down because the homeowners want to be at what the market is dictating. So we need to see that increase for these military members.
So the suggestion is actually I'd even reach out to the state level, because a lot of times the state
Exactly.
level representatives also have an open line to the national, but Rutherford here in our area from the congressional side, but reach out to the senators as well. You can easily do it online. Just go on their website and start with that. Start with the email.
And we have so many of them that are very pro-military.
Mm-hmm.
I have a long list that I could name, but I will say Rutherford is very pro-military. Mm-hmm. But they need to hear from us. We can't just sit back, and I'm not talking about real estate agents. Yes, real estate agents are a big part of this, but we need the service members to reach out.
Reach out themselves.
It can be letters, it can be phone calls, anything, but you've got to represent yourself too.
I had Elaine Morgan on a while ago, and she brought up something, and you brought it back up into my mind. As many organizations as there are, like K9 for Warriors and those types of things, she had brought up that there's some houses that need some work. A lot of these older homes, post World War II homes in this area, as I'm sure other cities around the country, need a little TLC, because a lot of times these enlisted people don't have time, and a lot of them don't have the extra cash to be fixing up homes, and to go in there as an investor and renovate a home. Obviously, you're in for a profit, but that can be rented somewhere in this area that the BAH level for the average enlisted person is.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Now, I will say, I do know that in St. Johns County, a lot of the builders, part of their deal of building now in neighborhoods is they also have to build affordable housing to be sold to, basically, I mean, it's the same thing as your hometown heroes, but it's sold to teachers and your first responders and the military.
Yeah.
So I do know that's been happening in St. Johns County. I haven't seen it yet in Duval, and I'm not sure on Clay County, but I think that's probably another step that they're trying to move forward with that's very helpful.
Well, a lot of our service members, especially at Mayport, come down from Nassau County.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Or come in all the way in from Callahan, but those areas are now starting to get a little more expensive too. I mean, there's the demand there.
So you also get Kings Bay up in Georgia. They'll move to Florida because you don't pay the state tax in Florida. So a lot of them will move to Florida, and I will also add that a lot of retired military likes to move to Florida because their military retirement doesn't get taxed. Now, Of course, they're not getting that housing allowance, but we're still considered one of the most affordable states. It's just for our active duty that we need to really...
A little push there.
Right.
A little push. We both were talking about a pre-show, the demand coming... Well, the demand is here, but the importance right now to buy in the very near future, because as we start going towards the summer, I might put the political economics are going to go on. The federal government's going to give the incentives. It's going to be also compiled with the summer push that every state generally has, because school's out, right? Everyone's going to make their move, type of thing when the kids are out of school. But there's going to be a surge all it's going to do is drive the prices up. So someone buying today, you might see a $10,000-$15,000, depending on the value of your home, you might see a $10,000-$15,000 equity just in 5-6 months.
Right.
And the importance of buying now, because of you are getting on a good home and a price home, you are getting multiple offers. You're not getting 10 and 20 offers, which we may run into in the summertime.
Right. Well, not just the summertime. As you said, this is a military-focused town. So you'll see, and not just the military altogether, you'll see families that have kids in school. They'll take their spring break and come down and start shopping. And they're going to start looking for that forever home. It doesn't even have to be forever, but they're going to look for that home during spring break. So come March, we're going to start seeing a surge come through again. So these buyers that are waiting for the rates to come down, it's kind of a double-edged sword there. You can be waiting for the rates to come down, but you're also waiting for the price to go up.
Right.
You're also waiting for that feeding frenzy again.
Well, and the great thing, you're talking from the lender side, VA, and if you has its streamlined refinance, which is a great product, and then those are our FHA buyers. Those those have great streamlined programs. They don't require an appraisal. The costs are less. It's very seamless, and what cost will probably be far less than what the equity growth could be in the grand scheme of things. So by buying now, you're getting in there, and you're not having like your family you just had go a year and almost give up on buying a home because all these changes went on, and because of this opportunity, you can refinance later.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
And now I've had situations too where, in fact, recently where I've had a customer want to put a contract in on a house, but at this point he needed a co-signer, and we went back and forth on, do you ask for a co-signer? And in the end, getting a co-signer just for that, and let me back up. So he just needed one more year to be able to report some funds that he's got coming in. Mm-hmm. And so if he had a co-signer for a year, he could get the house that he really wants, and then he can refinance after that year.
Right.
To your point, talking about some of the deals that are out there. But there's also, it's as I was saying earlier, we've got these young buyers that are out there looking, that are afraid to purchase now. I've got a 21-year-old daughter that is going to be graduating from college, but going back to get her master's degree. And my husband and I have talked many times that by the time she graduates, she's going to be so priced out of the market for her to be able to afford to purchase a home, mm-hmm. that we've thought about helping her buy a home now, and so that she can afford it now, and then she can pay us back down the road. Yeah. If I'm not saying everybody has the means to do that. It's just one of those situations where, how long do you want to wait? Do you want, let's look at California. There's so many of us in the military that are kicking ourselves that we didn't purchase back 20 years ago, because those homes have gained so much in equity.
Yeah, the $150,000 home is now $650,000, $750,000, right, or more.
Oh no, that $150,000 home is probably $2.5 million now, and we're seeing Florida do the exact same thing. I mean, I don't see us decreasing in price at all.
And that's to top on that subject. So many people, I don't know, they're waiting for this housing collapse. And as much as we try to put it out there, this is not 2006. There's not bad loans out there. Every loan that's been done since basically 2009 or 10, is there's this scale of can they afford to make the payment now. Do people lose their jobs and so forth and have to, but there's no reason for them to take a discount on their home because the demand is there. If they can't make the payment anymore, they could put it up for sale and have it sold within 3 or 4 months, long before any foreclosure process.
And make quite a bit of money off of it.
Right.
So, no, you're right. We are not seeing that. And that's a question we're asked all the time. Oh, I think this is going to burst. I think we're going to have a lot. No. We're not going to have foreclosures. And you have to remember, too, over the last 5 years, we've had a large amount of investors buy in this area and pay cash for the product. So we're not going to see, or we've had a lot of people come in from up north and some from out west that made so much money off the equity of their homes that they came here and paid cash. Yeah. So we're just in the loans that were so predatory years ago. We don't have those loans anymore. Yeah,
they're not there. And the fact that it would be interesting to get the statistics on I think it's close to 50%. You might have 40-50% of cash buyers. And when you have that kind of influx into the market, there's no reason when half your buyers are paying cash to start dropping prices, anything significantly.
I mean, and here's what I will say on the homes that we have had to drop the price. You do need to have your home. I'm not seeing the kind of buyer that can come in and have a vision anymore, mm-hmm. and look around the home and figure out, oh, I can renovate this, I can do that. Most of the buyers that I'm seeing, they want it to be turnkey ready. They want it's in this market. I'm finding that just having a vacant home doesn't work anymore. They want the home staged so that they can have a vision of how that house can look, how it can flow, how it can work. So I have seen some prices come down, but it's mainly because their particular neighborhood or that market may have been way overpriced before. And I'm not talking about just the house, I'm talking about the neighborhood in general. And now that we are in a more stable market, we're seeing the prices come down, but they're still significantly higher than they were 3 years ago.
Right.
Go back to 2020 before it really took off.
Cutting this staging for the other agents that might be listening. I know there's a lot of people that highly respect you and your experience. The statistics are out there about staging, right? There's nothing that says you were. And now I'm going to couple this in with the NAR lawsuit. And I think one of the things that's going to come out of the NAR lawsuit is the ability for an agent to express their value. And now, certain staging situations, I imagine something that's just some few things you take out of or you may even have some storage where you do keep some things for staging small stuff. Larger things, you may work it out with the seller what you're going to do. But I think I believe, and I want your comment on it, that's part of showing your value as like, hey, here's all the statistics on staging. And yes, we might have to sweat for a few hours and get everything organized, but it's going to get you that little bit more that might even cover the commission they're paying.
Well, here's what I'll say. I'll admit that I am not an agent that knows absolutely everything. And if you're an agent that believes that and you don't connect with other agents and look for feedback and ask for advice from other agents, I do that. I talk to agents on a daily basis from many other companies, and of course I go to Jeff and Matt in our office. But one of the questions that in the last 6 months I've been asking is, tell me how you're doing with staging. Is it working? Now, I don't think you have to spend thousands of dollars to stage a home. There are some good staging companies out there that don't charge that. It does help when you have a home you can walk into and you can visualize how everything is going to work. It definitely helps.
Well, especially those, you and I know there's people that walk into houses and everything might actually be right, but the walls are painted color they don't like. And they're like, oh, they turn around and walk out when everything else suited their needs, right, or their wants or whatever there. So sometimes it's just the littlest things, making sure the bathroom, decluttering, right? That's probably a big thing. That's part of your staging speech.
Decluttering, right? Or I will tell you, one of the biggest issues that a lot of my customers have, my buyers, when they're looking, is when you walk into a home, and I know a lot of people don't want to replace flooring before they put it up for sale because they want to see what the buyer wants. Mm-hmm. I will tell you that if a buyer walks in and they smell animal urine or they can tell it's not been taken care of, sometimes it's hard for them to overlook that.
Yep.
And so I really think it's worth it to invest before you list it.
There's no doubt that if you got a dog or a cat and it's been on that carpet for 10 years or whatever, you may not smell it because that's the smell you smell every day and you don't even notice it, but someone new walks in that door and that's a question you got to ask.
It is.
Or a real estate agent walking in that house the first time is going to say, yeah, you got to do something with this carpet. Right?
Yeah. And don't take it personally when we say that. Our job is to help you sell that house. Mm-hmm. If we know walking into your house that there's an issue, we need you to listen to us and not take it personally.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, there is a way to approach that with the seller. You don't have to be rude about it.
Right.
It's just we know how it's going to be taken. I recently took over a house, and the owner and I walked through it, and it was one of those homes. And but there was a way of handling it. Mm-hmm. Real estate agents have connections with contractors all over town. And most often you're going to get a pretty good deal from all the different contractors. And so that's another benefit that a real estate agent can bring to a seller,
right,
that a seller going direct may not have. So it is beneficial.
And even making some of those changes, whether it's the color on the walls or, changing the flooring out, because there's some agents who are really good at decorating, interior, what's going on right now, or they have that connection to say, hey, what is the trends right now? Is it hardwood? Is it, the different types of vinyl or whatever, the flooring colors or carpet color,
Correct.
depending on what the situation is, and to consult that and take a few minutes. And go ahead and change it out, because if they are catching the trend, that's generally what the buyers are going to want anyway. And they're like, oh, I don't have to replace the floor; it's already been done.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Insurance. Are you finding any, some shockers on the? Yeah, this is a hot subject.
Well, but I don't know if you saw my Facebook post, but I probably got the biggest shock. Ours went up significantly, like almost. It's just a couple $100 lower than our mortgage payment is. That's how high ours went up.
Yeah.
But here's what I will tell you, and I put the post out there just because I wanted to hear from people. I wanted to hear how many are being affected by this. And probably one of my most popular posts where everybody had something to say. Now, almost everybody that commented also reached out privately and told me, because that was the one thing I wanted to know. How did you navigate it? Mm-hmm. How did you get it? And almost every single one of them got their insurance back down to what it was, but with a different company. So in our situation, it was the most interesting thing. We called the insurance company because we had no warning. No letter was sent to us to tell us it had gone up. We just got a letter from our mortgage company saying,
new escrow.
Yes. And we knew it wasn't our taxes. Mm-hmm. So we called the insurance company, and the agent that answered the phone said, oh, I can tell you right now, you're in Florida. He said, our company is pulling out of Florida, so we've increased the prices, and we're not going to renew with you in June anyway. So and he gave me a whole list of companies to call to get insurance. And it's a large insurance company that's moving out of Florida. And it just so happened I have 3 customers right now that have the same insurance company. And it gave me an opportunity to call each one of them and say, be prepared. And you're not necessarily going to get a call from them telling you that your escrow is going drastically up. So call ahead of time. Right. And then here's a list of insurance companies.
Well, now is that opportunity, everyone, we always reach out, hey, especially the first time home, just bought their home. Hey, reach out for your homestead exemption, right? That was always the reason to reach out to them.
Yes.
Now the thing is a month before their anniversary to be reaching out and say, hey, have you shopped your insurance lately? Partner up with an insurance agent to co-brand some postcard or something, but you need to be doing that on a yearly basis.
That is good, and Tracy, because I'll tell you, it's interesting when just within my own family, I called everybody in my family and said, make sure you're checking. But do you know that I just got a light bulb go off, but go ahead. I was going to say, I will guarantee you 80% of our customers have no idea when their insurance renews. Mine renews in June. I never would have thought that it renewed in June. I would have thought it was renewing around the same time my taxes could go up. But no, mine's in June. And so it provoked a conversation for my family, our friends. And as I said, I got more feedback and private messages on that post than any in quite a while.
So that's a huge tip for the agents out there. Reach out, a good month before the anniversary, especially if they just bought the home last year. But each year they should be shopping, and it's obviously a touch base, but also a value add, because you could be saving someone, hundreds of dollars a month easily sometimes. And that's from one of the stories I'm hearing.
Well, and have a relationship with not just one, but several different insurance brokers or agents, and get a feel from them who are the good companies to go with, who is going to be fairly priced but still deliver the product.
I think that's one, especially buyers coming from out of state. They're used to in New York or Massachusetts, Michigan, I'm with State Farm, I'm with Farmers or whatever, and they stay with them forever. They don't realize when they come to Florida, even the Farmers guy is still brokering out to many different insurance companies because a lot of these companies will only write so many policies in Florida.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of insurance companies leave Florida. But at the same time, we are getting some new
ones coming in. Yeah. The podcast I actually did this morning with Cindy Hayden, who's on the NAR insurance board. She was talking about, they are obviously, that's a topic nationally, is the insurance. They said one of the big reasons why it's gone up is the insurance companies have insurance on the insurance that they write you. So should a catastrophic event happen, they've got backing as well, so they don't go bankrupt. And it's that reinsurance, I guess is what it's called, is one of the things that have gone up. And then there's been some executive orders and so forth about homes that are in climate change risk zone. She said it better than me. You have to, have to go in there and pull that part out. But that was part of the push, was they didn't want Fannie and Freddie also, taking on some of these things without, the proper insurance. So you may not be in a flood zone, but because you're in this other 10 million homes that she said they found that aren't in the flood zone, but they're in a zone where, like in Orlando, when they had a lot of rain there in the last hurricane, it was more rain than it was the hurricane. But because it was such a torrential, in Florida, if it rains hard for a few hours, we're going to get some little flooding going on.
In Orlando, UCF was flooded. They had to close the college down because it was flooding.
Yeah.
But I am thankful for NEFAR here in town. You've got people like Mario Gonzalez and Kim Knapp. They were all just over in Tallahassee last week fighting for our homeowners.
Yep.
And that's what our NEFAR organization does. We're fighting for our customers.
Right. You got to stay. I think it's more. I don't know if it's. To me, it's more. Not that it wasn't important before, but that the real estate agents are either being active themselves or supporting those who, like Kim Knapp, who want to, enjoy being on the front lines and being the spokesperson, to support them and let them know that you do support them. And then obviously financially to RPAC.
Right.
To support that. Because, I think the insurance battle is going to go on for a little bit here before it quiets down. And what I'm hearing, it's national. In Louisiana, it's crazy.
I'm really glad you said that, because there were a lot of people that they think this is all, it's just political, but it's nationwide. It's not just Florida. It is nationwide. I can tell you a number of my friends, North Carolina, Georgia, and as you said, Louisiana, it's all over that it's going up.
Yeah. I think each state has its own little reasons why.
Right.
Florida, they're trying to crack because we have so many lawsuits going on. Tallahassee has made some changes for them, so moving forward, it's going to get better. But all those lawsuits that are already filed, they got to work through. Yes. So it's an ongoing process. But like you said, it's important. Support your local board, RPAC, and for those who are willing to go face to face, support them. Yeah,
I agree.
For sure.
I agree.
Did we get to all of our subjects that we wanted to cover?
I think so.
Buy now. We talked about staging. I think we got it. Like I said, I think just to reiterate, now is the time. You need to get engaged. Get with your real estate agent. Get with your lender. Get pre-approved. Don't wait around. You may find a house tomorrow. It may take some time to buy it, but obviously getting pre-approved so you're locked and loaded and ready to go. And just one last word out to those active duty members. They need to call their local Congress people and talk about it. Hey, because if they're not being called, they assume there's no problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's too easy and too comfortable to not. I think all too often we think we can't make a change, that our voice doesn't matter, but it does matter.
Mm-hmm.